Hello everyone and welcome to this tutorial on Django Stack. Now Django Stack is in my knowledge it's the best, I will not say best, it's the fastest stack in which you can create if you ask to create a full-fledged website with user authentication, authorization, all these kind of things. You have to do database stuff like a website like WhatsApp or Twitter, these kind of websites. With a regular stack, you can do that in years, a month, let's say. With the Django stack, you can do that. If you are experienced Django developer, you can do that in just one day. And what those big websites can accomplish, of those big stacks can accomplish in one, or I say 2 or 3 weeks, you can accomplish that within the Django stack in a single hour. So this is the most this is the fastest stack in my knowledge, which can be used to create any kind of application. You can have e-commerce, you can have any kind of application that is created with any kind of application can be created with this stack. Now those big websites like Google and YouTube also use Django, so that's a good news for you. So that's what makes it worth learning. Now, and here, let me create. And here we have this. I'm here in my Django env. You can see that right here, and as well as here we have this pip freeze, and we have these four packages: asgrf, Django, pytz, and sql parse. Now if you do pip install Django or inside a virtual env or anywhere, then you must get all of these four packages, so you need not install them separately. Now Django provides us a command line interface which we call the Django admin. So Django admin start project, and the name of your project here. Now the name of your project can be anything, but in this video we are going to create a examination app that will help teachers to take tests of students. So we will have user authentication, we will have database stuff, that those tests will be stored in database, users or the students marks will also be stored, and all of that. So Django admin start project tests or examination or exam app or exam buddy, as you can call it, examiner in my case. Now let me enter that, and if I ls, you can see that it is created Django env and examiner. Now the internal file structure of examiner can be we can get that by sublime subl examiner. So I will be using Sublime Text as my code editor for this. You can use anything. You can use PyCharm, you can use Visual Studio Code, any text editor you have or you like. Now examiner. Now we did that, and we open Sublime Text, and here we are in our examiner. This is examiner, and here in the root we have manage.py. Now this file has a name examiner, and this file also has a name examiner. No, not files of, sorry about that, this folder, these two folders have the exact same name, examiner. Now this examiner folder is a project, and it can contain several apps. Now in the Django world, a project and an app are different names. You can have an app that is inside a project, but you can't have a project that is inside the app. If you like to have it, you can have, but that won't work. Okay. Now, examiner. This file inside the examiner file, which is the children. Now here we can see that we have several files: asgi.py, settings.py, urls, and sgi. The init.py file says that this Python file is a Python package, and that it has no content inside it. ESGI and WSGI files are used for deploying your app, your website, into an ASGI framework or a WSGI framework. We will discuss that in the deployment section. Settings.py has handles all of your settings. Okay, and urls.py handles all of your URLs. Now, URLs are something that a user sees when he goes to, like, let's say your app has a let's say you deploy your app with the name examiner.com. Okay, this is the URL of your app. Now, slash after this, you can have routes like examiner.com slash home or examiner.com slash exam, where you can host the exam. This route can be used to host exams, and this route can be used for the home page. Now, you can have any number of routes and any number of functionality, any kind of functionality you like in those routes. Now, this urls.py has a built-in route that is admin, and we'll get to the administrator or admin soon. Now, at the heart of this examiner file, I'm talking about the big examiner, the examiner of the examiners, and inside this big examiner, we will call this file the big examiner, and this file the small examiner. Now, the big examiner file has this manage.py, and manage.py is the heart of the application. Now, I want to delete this, and manage.py file is in the heart of the application. Now, with manage.py, you can run the server, you can test the app, you can make it production ready, you can do anything with that, anything you like. Now, I said that you can have an app inside a project, but why do you? Like, can't you create a website with these files? The answer is you can't. You have this urls.py, that's good. This file handles all of the URLs, but you can see that we import from Django.contrib admin, and from Django.urls import path, and inside when this path /admin is hitted, then you go to admin.site.urls. What is this? Now, this simply says that if your user goes to the examiner.com slash admin, then a further URL handling will be handled by admin.sites.urls. Now, this file, the admin.sites.urls file, is extended version of some URLs and some views, and it will handle this. Now, in the Django world, we have kind of this home URL, and we define this URL. Now, that does not make any sense. We would have to transfer it to some view, like the view in this case would be home view, and those apps have those view files, and they have a lot of functionality that you can use with them. Now, let me show you what does an app contain. Now, we go and python manage.py start app. And when you hit Python manage py start app, a app will be created. First of all, let me ls and let me cd inside the examiner. That is our project, and I said you should have a app inside the project. We clear up the terminal, and you should have python manage.py start app, or no, Django admin start app, admin start app, and the name of your app. And in this case, apps handle a lot of functionality. Like if if you are creating a supermarket project, then an app can be a cart app, which handles the user's cart. A user authentication app can be built, and there can be a lot of apps that distribute the functionality, and it will be easier for you to code them. Now start app. Now the name of this app, I will set the name of this app exams. Now this will handle all of my exams as the teachers. Okay, exams. And we can see that we have this exams folder right here, and we have admin.py, we have apps, we have models, we have tests, we have views, a lot of files along with migrations. Now this you can see this file structure is much more complicated than this file structure. Now in this smaller examiner file, we have everything for the whole project. We have the settings for the project, we have the URLs for the project, we will have the WSGI and ASGI for deploying the project. This contains a lot more functionality than this, but this contains it for the project, and this contains it for the app itself for a specific thing. Now in our case, for examinations, so we have these models.py, and models.py, as you have, if you know earlier, that's good. Now if in any application you have any website, like for example, what kind of website? For example, YouTube. Now YouTube is a much more complicated website, but let's take the example of another website called Amazon. Now Amazon has all of its products. Now Amazon, inside when you go inside Amazon, you can see a wide range of products, and those products can vary from, maybe it has a toy car. Now it has the toy car product when the first time you saw it. Now you're ordering it for your little one, and your little one's birthday is at let's say a month, after a month. So you need not order it now. So you saw it from the first time, and the second time you came here, the toy car existed exactly the same, at the same route, exactly the same toy car you saw when you came the second time. How is that possible? For example, if we have a room here, and we go for for example, we are going in a long way, and we see a red colored house, and we came back from our destination, and we saw the red colored house there again. Now that makes sense, because that red colored house was there. But where is this toy car? I mean, where does it exist? It does not exist in the real world, it exists in the virtual world. Now, a database helps us to store items like toy car, the data of the toy car, the images of the toy car, the dealer, the title, many things. Now, if I were to explain you about the toy car and what the database stores about it, so it stores the name, it stores the description, it stores the images, it stores the dealer, it stores many things, a lot of information about a single toy car. And you have hundreds of toy cars in in the Amazon application. You have hundreds, millions of products similarly like this toy car. Now In our examination, we will what's the examiner application, we have several exams. Now we need a place to store them. Where do we store them? That is the big question. If a student goes to our application and sees the exam for the first time, we created it for the first time, and if we created the exam, we need a place to store it as a data. So we call the storage the the place where we store it, we call that place a database. Now a database can be imagined as a huge sack of or a huge room or a huge heap of data, and where you can take out data at any time. Now there are many kinds of database: NoSQL and SQL. Now SQL databases use a language called SQL, or structured query language. Now the structured query language, or SQL, allows those to insert the data inside the database and take that data out of the database. NoSQL databases don't store data in this way. They store data in a big JSON file. MySQL data or SQL databases store that in tables, in the form of tables, and we can have a lot of tables. Like here we can have name, here we can have description, and such kind of a table. Here we can have something like uh, whatever, pictures. Or if we examine for the examination app, we can have the teacher, who exactly what teacher created that exam for the student. We can have the students which gave the exam as a list. We can have what happened, the difficulty of the exam, difficulty, and finally we can have the exam itself, the questions of the exam. Now this is kind of table, and every entry inside this. Now the teacher name is what should be the teacher's name? Something like Ma'am Incognito. And the students can be give the exam. We store that in the form of a list. You may know, you should know about Python lists. If you don't know, then I will create a video maybe, and you can watch this here if you like to know. Now this was Ram, John, Shyam, Hari, Vari, and a lot of students saw that the difficulty is 5 out of 5, or very hard, or nightmarishly hard. Marishly hard. And the questions are any questions. Now I hope that after this explanation, that it must be very very clear to you all that we need a place to store our data, and we call that place a database. Now models help you doing this. Now in models you create a class. So not this kind of class. You create a class called the the name of the class is the name of the table in your database. Now Django uses SQL databases, and class, now you can name the table of your database exam table or exam. Now it needs to extend models dot model, which is a standard model class, and it has many properties. Like if you have the name of the teacher who created that exam, we will discuss that later. First of all, let me add the difficulty of the exam. Difficulty of the exam, that is equal to models dot jar field. Now char field stands for character field. Now this is a way to tell the database that this field, the difficulty field of the database, must contain only characters. And we have a text field also. So what's the difference between char field and text field? The char field defines a certain maximum length of characters. Now the characters can't extend more than 50, 60, 70, 80, and so on. So if you have a title, then or difficulty, you must use the char field. Now here, that max length attribute determines how long should be that character, and in this case let me define that as 100. Now it can be 100 characters long. Now when we save that, now it does not do it instantly. It does not create a database and it does not store data in it. Now you know that the SQL databases understand the SQL language, they don't understand Python. They're weak in Python, you can say. So now what Python does is, we have a command here, python manage.py make migrations. Oh, wait a moment. Now we understand. We mistake. We skip a very important step. Now inside this small examiner file, we have the settings.py install apps. We should add the name of our app, unless it will not work. The name of our app is exams, so we need to add it. Save that, and now let's run. And we created migrations for exams. Fine. Now inside this migrations file, we have 001 initial.py, and this has this creates this fields id models would be auto field, and this is all SQL. And now Python has a library SQLite that does create a database and does insert data inside the database and takes the data out of the database as well. And we have a db.sqlite3. Currently this is empty and this is our database. This is a flat file database. It stores database in just one file. In production we won't use this database, we'll use Postgres. Okay, currently let's just delete it and close without saving. And here, now we run this make migrations file to make this migrations file. Now this migrations file is not executed till now. We will execute this migrations file now. Python manage.py migrate. Now this will execute the migrations file now, and you can see that it runs the migrations and create all these kind of tables. And now we don't have anything to do with SQL. You don't know SQL, that's very fine. I don't know as well. We will be using all Python code to write or take the data out of the database and show it and do all kinds of stuff with it. Now db.sqlite3, earlier that was empty, and now we click and then this is some big data. Now you can see, and we don't really need to care about this. This is a binary file, I think. No, not binary, and it contains some data. We don't need to care about it, as I said. Now don't be terrified by this. Now let's run our website. Now I know that we have not created any field in our website, any URL in our website, any view in our website. We have not done anything, but Django will greet us with a very fine homepage. Python manage.py run server to run your server locally. With locally, I mean that website will be running just on your machine on port 8000, and I won't be able to see your website and you won't be able to see my website. So okay, and we can start a browser on this localhost port 8000. 1 to 7.0.0.0, uh, 1 to 7.0.0 8000, and we see this very nice homepage. Django is creating us nicely. Now the install worked successfully. Congratulations, Django documentation, tutorial, polling app, and everything. Now we will create a super user. You would you would know that I said, or you heard when I said that URL py we have this admin route. We did not do that. It was there before us. Now it has some functionality, and Django has some built-in functionality with which you can create super fast apps. And one of this functionality is the admin functionality. We close the server for a while, and here we have that admin functionality. Now Python manage.py create super user. Now if you run WhatsApp, you must be aware of what is an admin. Now admin or administrator controls everything in a website, including the users, including the models, including the data inside the database, and he does everything graphically. Now if you are creating your website for a client, then he would be having no problems working with that kind of like you if he does not know how to code, he can use that GUI, or you can use that GUI yourself. Now Python Master py create super user. It will ask a few questions from you, and it will create a super user. Add username. I will here leave blank. The password, you can have a password. Now users by default in Django should have a password uh, written than 8 characters, but you are the super user. Now you can have a password less than 1 character, no, less than any number of characters, less than 2 characters, greater than 0 characters, any kind of password you can have. For example, I can have this password. I Wait a second. Yes, I can have this password. Oh, wait a second. Oh, you will not be seeing any text on the screen. I exist, and I exist. Password is too short. It must contain at least 8 characters. Bypass premeditation and create user anyway. Yes, I'm the super user. You ought to do this. And you created a super user successfully. Now, for seeing what the strengths of super user are, you can go to /admin, and I said that this route is going to help us a lot. And enter. Oh, the server is not running. Let me run the server and refresh the page, and we can have Django administration, username and password. My username is Ishan, yes, small case, and password I exist. Login. So password I exist. Okay, and we can have groups. You can have users. You can add users. You can add a few users like Ishan. Ishan is already exist. Testing. Use testing or password. A security generated password. Very nice. Save that. Now, why are we not seeing these models that we just created? The exam model. That's why the admin.py file is given to you. Now you can import from models, from dot models, because that is in the same folder. Import the exam, I think. Exam. And you can have a class. No, not that kind of class. You can, oh, what am I saying? No classes here. You can have admin dot site dot register, and you are going to register the exam model. Save that. Oh, region dot site dot register. I think the uppercase. Save that. Admin dot admin dot site dot register. And now it's up and running. And we reload, and we can see exams. Now we can add exams, and we can click add exam button, and we can add the difficulty to nightmarishly hard. Save. Now you can see that we have to add a certain difficulty for this. Now I can also add no difficulty, or things like car, truck, airplane. I can add anything here, but that should not be the case. We should have a drop down menu in which we can select how difficult it is: hard, easy, hard, very hard, nightmarishly hard, or very very easy. So in the next tutorial, what we'll be doing is we'll be creating a another model for this models. In this models py, which will be teacher. It will contain all the information for the teacher, and we'll be using the user authentication in Django. We'll be adding a certain number of fields in it. We will be adding another field which is like a drop down, and after all that we'll be finished up with a very nice looking application. And we will, in the maybe in the third or fourth video of the series, we will also add bootstrap. Okay, so the application will look very very good. Goodbye.